Hi, and welcome to BestMyTest Vocabulary Lesson. Today's video is an advanced lesson for a lot of TOEFL and IELTS test takers. During your TOEFL and IELTS preparations, you probably came across the following words already: dominate, dominant, dominance, domination, predominate, predominant, predominance, and predominantly. A lot of students look these words up in the dictionary but still don't truly understand them. So in today's video, we are going to look at each of these words and give you various examples to demonstrate how to use them. This way you will understand the difference between them and will be able to use them correctly. So let's get started. The first words we are looking at today are dominate and predominate. While both of them can be used interchangeably in some sentences, normally dominate is used to mean to have or exert power or influence over something or somebody. Predominate, on the other hand, is mostly used as to be the most common. However, dominate can mean to be the most common as well, and this is where it gets a little bit confusing. But more on this later. Let's talk about dominate in the sense of to rule or control something first. Dominate is almost always used with an object. We often see it used in business and sports. Let's have a look at some examples. The Chicago Bulls dominated the NBA in 1996. Our company dominates the market for operating systems. Google and Facebook dominate the fast-growing market for online advertising. You may encounter the word dominate in your history or politics class as well, like in the following textbook sample. The Han Dynasty of China has dominated much of ancient East Asia for a long time. As said before, dominate can mean to be the most common as well. This usage appears quite often in TOEFL academic lectures or passages. So let's look at some TOEFL academic style example sentences. Invertebrates dominate deep sea regions. This means that invertebrates are the most common species in deep sea regions. Invertebrates here are animals without a backbone. And next sentence, Mars' atmosphere is dominated by carbon dioxide. This means that carbon dioxide is the most abundant gas in Mars' atmosphere. Okay, since here the meaning of dominate is to be the most common, we can actually use predominate to convey the same meaning. For instance, I could say invertebrates predominate in deep sea regions, instead of invertebrates dominate deep sea regions. I will explain why we have to use in here in a bit, so please stick with me for now. Remember, we cannot always replace dominate with predominate. Take this sentence here, for example. Our company dominates the market for operating systems. Here, dominate means have power and influence over the market. If we use the verb predominate, the sentence becomes our company predominates in the market for operating systems. That's not completely wrong, but native speakers wouldn't normally write or say it like that. This is because predominate is not often used in the sense of control or rule something, while dominate is. Let me give you a better example using predominate. It appears that oak trees predominate in this forest. Here it means that oak trees are the most common trees in this forest. Okay, there is another difference between dominate and predominate. The verb predominate is an intransitive verb, meaning it doesn't take an object, whereas dominate is a transitive verb, meaning it does take objects. This is why we used in with predominate before. To make that clearer, let's have a look at an example using dominate. Carbon dioxide dominates Mars' atmosphere. As you can see, the verb dominate takes the object, which is Mars' atmosphere. We can change this sentence using predominate because dominate here means being the most common. But we cannot simply exchange the two words. We have to write it like this. Carbon dioxide predominates in Mars' atmosphere. So we have to use the preposition in here, since predominate doesn't take a direct object. Okay, let's look at more example sentences of the verb predominate, where the same applies. Cottages predominate along the beach. This means most of the buildings along the beach are cottages. Rain predominates in the tropical regions. This means that there's a great deal of rain in the tropical regions. Or, older people predominate in this neighborhood. The word predominate is sometimes used with the preposition over as well. So when A predominates over B, it means that A is more common than B. Let's look at the following examples. In the surface soil, oxygen generally predominates over carbon dioxide. In this area, immigrants predominate over local people. Pine trees predominate over oak trees in this park. You should make sure that you understand the difference between dominate and predominate, as this is crucial to understand the differences between the following words, dominance and predominance, and dominant and predominant later. To help you, we have summarized the differences here for you. As a rule of thumb, you should use dominate when you want to express the meaning of control or power, and when you have an object. You should use predominate when you refer to something being the most common or being widespread in a certain area. Use dominate when you speak about the influence of something, and predominate when you talk about numbers. Alright, let's look at the nouns, dominance and predominance. Similar to the verbs, the noun dominance means power and influence over others, and predominance means the state or condition of being the most common. Let's look at an example. The ongoing and increasing dominance of English in world culture and commerce will continue to provide many advantages to Britain in many areas. Here we imply that there is a greater influence of English over other languages in world culture. If we replace dominance with predominance here, we imply that there is a greater commonness of English over other languages in world culture. So we can change dominance to predominance in this sentence, but it changes the meaning slightly from English being influential to English being widespread. Let's look at another example using predominance. There is a predominance of older people in the neighborhood. This means that there is a greater number of older people in the neighborhood. Please note that the noun dominance isn't really used for the state or condition of being the most common. So the following sentence is incorrect. There is a dominance of older people in the neighborhood. However, since the verb dominate can be used in the sense of to be common, you could use the verb dominate here and say older people dominate this neighborhood. Alright, here are more examples using predominance. Despite the predominance of female teachers in school, administrative positions are held mostly by men. That means that despite most of the teachers in school being women, administrative positions are held mostly by men. And another sentence. The predominance of individualist feminism in English-speaking countries is a historical phenomenon. And the last sentence. There is an overwhelming predominance of female images in prehistoric art. Okay, we know that dominance means the power or influence over others. So the phrase gain dominance is often used. For example, Hollywood continues to gain dominance in the international film market. This means that Hollywood's dominance in the international film market continuously increases. Okay. So far we have looked at dominate and predominate, and dominance and predominance. Let's look at the adjectives dominant and predominant. Both adjectives are often used interchangeably, but at the same time there are occasions where you can use only one of them. Take these two sentences for example. Newspapers play a dominant role in shaping public opinion, and newspapers play a predominant role in shaping public opinion. Both sentences are generally correct, but the first sentence is still recommended. Why, you ask? You can stick to our rule of thumb here. We want to talk about the influence newspapers have, so we should use dominant. Here the meaning of dominant is influential, but be prepared to see both versions as well. When we want to refer to the meaning of being common, dominant and predominant are both used, but even then using predominant is recommended. The following sentence helps to demonstrate this. The most predominant color in this room is beige. So using our rule of thumb here, we should use predominant. What we want to say is that beige is the color mostly used in the room. However, here many people use dominant as well, especially when we mean that the beige color gives the room an overall atmosphere. So you could also say the dominant color in this room is beige. Okay, while we use dominant and predominant often interchangeably, there are examples where predominant does not work. One example comes from genetics. In genetics, there are so-called dominant genes. These are genes which define heritable characteristics even if only one parent carries the genes for those characteristics. Among others, dominant can be used for dominant genes, dominant traits, dominant characteristics, or even dominant behavior. For example, brown hair is a dominant trait. This means that brown hair is dominant over blonde hair, for example. Here you cannot say brown hair is a predominant trait. Now let's look at more examples using the word dominant. The university plays a dominant role in the local economy. Money is the dominant force in consumer societies. And here are more examples using the word predominant. Red is the predominant color in the painting. Or religion is the predominant theme of the play. This means that in the play they are displaying many things that are related to religion. Alright, the adverb of predominant is predominantly. It basically means mostly. Look at the following example sentences. Humans are predominantly right-handed. And polar bears are predominantly left-handed. Here, dominantly would not work, as we are talking about numbers in a population. Okay, let's look at the final word today, domination. The noun domination is different from dominance. Dominance means the condition of being dominant, which basically means have power or influence over others. The noun domination is the act of dominating someone or something, or the condition of being dominated. Did you notice the difference? Let's look at some examples using domination. It wasn't until the First World War that the US began to seriously challenge the British domination of South Africa. Or European domination of India led to a rise in Indian nationalism. So why do we use domination here? Because here we want to emphasize the act of dominating something. For instance, in European domination of India, we are implying that Europe actually exerts its power over India by, for example, military or economic means. The terms political domination, market domination, economic domination, or military domination are often used. Here are example sentences. The most effective method for market domination is to create a niche market. You are more likely to succeed at market domination if your business faces little or no competition. Political domination is a crucial aspect of colonialism. Okay, this is the end of today's video. I hope you now know the difference between dominate and predominate and how to use their noun forms, dominance and predominance, and their adjective forms, dominant and predominant. You can use our rule of thumb to help you as well. As usual, you can go to our YouTube channel and Facebook to watch more free videos. Also, you can go to our website www.bestmytest.com to practice over 1,000 TOEFL questions and many TOEFL simulated tests. This is Joe from bestmytest.com. I'm looking forward to seeing you next time and say goodbye for today.